Newmarket had to drive to Newmarket, there would be no parking for anyone else. That's just a reality that is the case. And I helped the town council start a parking committee, and that's kind of going, but again, slow. Everything is very slow, and the issue is a little bit more immediate than that in the sense that a lot of the restaurants can't hire. A lot of the older folks' homes, the Pines and these other homes that take care of older folks are very understaffed. They cannot find LNAs. At 15, 16, 17, 18 bucks an hour, they're understaffed. And it's mainly, it's a lot of things. It's not just housing, but housing's a big part. And I think that the unattached ADU thing is a small piece towards alleviating that problem, and in a way that is very, in my opinion, it's quicker than trying to build a bunch of new houses. I mean, this could be done in a way that is not increasing, trying to the idea of starting like a new mini Newmarket in Western Newmarket. We're going to send pipes. I mean, that's a 10-year plan. This could, I mean, if it's passed soon, people could be breaking ground this spring. And I don't think personally that there's a ton of people that want to do this or that would even be able to do it with their property. But I think that anything that we could do would be helpful. And because I think we're getting to this point where if we don't have a workforce, and it's kind of even workforce is the definition of workforce housing I think is 1,800 a month, and at 20 bucks an hour, how much can you afford in rent? Like maybe 15, and as it creeps up, the issue that I'm facing is that I look at what people are renting their apartments for, and I say, geez, I could deal with this restaurant that's a total pain. I got inflation. I got employees that I can't find, customers that don't have parking, or I could just turn this into an apartment and rent it out for 1,800 bucks a month. And you think about all the places downtown, like the Stone Church, that could be 4 units. Crack Skulls, that could be 2 or 3, 4 units. And at some point, the math just doesn't make sense. If there's no one to work, the incentive to be sort of, I mean, I'm forced. My building is commercial. I have to come here and ask for a change of use. And to then not have enough parking and then not have enough employees, it gets to this point where the economics just do not make sense. And this isn't like a future, like, oh, this could happen. It's like already a reality for myself and a lot of the business owners. I mean, I got to the point where I contacted immigration lawyers. Like, I'll get someone from Mexico or something. I mean, I sell tacos, that'll be great. And then I'm talking to, the immigration lawyer. She's like, all right, well, you got to find them somewhere to live. I'm like, geez, I thought you guys did that at least, So, again, going back to the ADU thing, initially, to me, it was a level of fairness. It didn't seem to make sense. You either should allow ADUs or not. If if your garage is 6 feet from the house, to me, I don't really see the difference. I understand there's more people worried about what you could do if you were to these developers are they're not manipulating but trying to maximize the space, and it seems that you guys have, or that in general you are aware of all those contingencies and have planned for it, and so many other towns have made the change to allow the unattached ADUs, that I think we can pretty easily see what has worked and what hasn't. And I mean, some things haven't worked. In York, they had to change some of their rules because it was getting, people were trying to sell an ADU for $350,000 or more, and it was a garage. And so, there's definitely, I think you're doing the right thing by taking your time and figuring it out. But at the same time, I think that the sooner it's done, the better. And I'll be honest, I'd never even considered that 2 ADUs would even be on the docket. I just assumed 1 because, most people have 1 barn or 1 garage. That said, I think 2 would be great. I think especially if it was in walking distance to downtown, so those people didn't have to drive. And I think there's, if there's a way you could do 1 permanently and 2 that was maybe a sunset in 5 years, I think that would make sense. Just because who knows how long the housing will be an issue. I mean, maybe there will be big movements by the federal government or something. Who knows? It could change. That said, baby boomers are just living longer. They're going to stay in their houses. They want to stay in their houses. And that's good, but we got to recognize that we're going to need people to work in these restaurants and in these lower wage places, because the only other option is that if I have to pay someone to drive here from Rochester, I have to pay them for gas, I have to make it worth their while, and I have to charge more. So we're just sort of building in inflation, inflating the prices for all of the people who want to live here. And generally, I don't want to live in a town that's only people that make $500,000 a year or whatever. I want to live in a diverse town with people of many income brackets that I think that's how we get diversity. And I think it's what we've had for many, many years, and I think it's great, and I think our town is great. It's just I think we have to kind of get over the idea that like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like we could almost never stop developing because as soon as you stop, it just supply and demand kicks in, and the properties that are there get so expensive. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Alrighty, I don't see anybody else out here. So,
I do have a conservation commission.
do you want me to close the public hearing or just keep it open? What do you think? What do we
Have a discussion.
I would just keep it open.
Yeah.
keep it open? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So we still have to go through. We had gotten all the way through your latest draft, right? And I do, like you said, I know you
Yeah.
just gave us a letter from the Concom.
Yep.
Letter is kind of like a public response, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get it into the record when
Yeah.
I
we
can
get
read it
into
later.
Yeah, yeah.
I can go over some changes I made based on discussions
Yep.
at the last meeting. So I changed the format here just for blue is added language, and then purple cross out is language taken out. That was discussion during the plan board deliberations. So I guess we'll just go to first one based off last meeting's discussion. So there's this recertification process that the board has been kicking around, this idea, like, you know, how do we know how many ADUs are out there? How do we know there's still ADUs? So on line 129, I added language.
Page 3.
Page
Page
3,
three, yep.
where before it was just retirement ADUs, now the title is recertification and retirement ADUs. And the new language reads as follows: all ADUs permitted after date of enactment shall submit an ADU recertification application on an annual basis to the town confirming the status of the ADU. So there, the town will always be aware that which properties are delinquent that had ADU, that didn't recertify, which ones to keep on recertifying, so we have a really good idea for the people who have gone through the process, how many ADUs are out there.
But is there, can I ask you a question about that? Is there a reason to certify, once you have an ADU, if this passes, you have an ADU, you have it forever if you want.
Well, there's also this notice
Or
of...
you could close it, or you could not use it, right?
Correct, right. So the idea is, Val keeps bringing this up, based on what I've heard, is noticing a potential buyer, that there's an ADU there. How would you do that? You know, a lot of times my experience, either they go to the registry of deeds, so should this document be recorded, or they go to the planning office, say, when they're doing,
My concern is that it becomes just a duplex rental unit, because that's
So
more
that's what
my
it's for.
issue.
Yeah, okay.
As opposed
Okay.
to mandating that there is the owner occupied in one of the units.
Well, we have that mandate.
so.
This is,
Right.
but annually.
This is
Yeah.
proof annually
Okay.
that the owner.
Oh, all right, okay,
Right.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So my question is
Alright.
more, why is it just from the date of the enactment of this, as opposed to all ADUs in town being required to?
Well, there's those ADU, oh, great, so, one,
You're trying to make,
for those people that have gone through the process before this ordinance is changed, if it were to be changed, there's that grandfather status.
but does the statute automatically grandfather them from any changes? As opposed to a regulation that would then require them to, if anyone has an ADU, to
That's a
register
legal
it?
question I'll have to ask, I can't answer you right now, but,
Let's have
that was,
John
that was my,
follow up
that
on
was
that.
my,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay, okay.
that was my thought process.
Okay.
If we could have John follow,
Yeah.
Radigan follow up on that,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
I thought the
think that
issue
all-
was we have no idea how many ADUs currently even exist.
We have we know there's some out
We
there
do.
who've gone through the process, but there could be some that,
We do by the tax card.
Well, I mean,
It's
your
some-
point was that there's probably, for everyone that we know about, there's 3 that we don't know about.
Whatever the number is, but
Okay,
if
yeah.
you look on a tax card, it's going to say if there's an accessory apartment within, on that
Oh,
property.
okay, okay.
So it would be nice to know, and then if someone has an accessory apartment, right, then they can be informed that
Right.
there is this regulation that they need
That
to
if they're
submit.
using it, yeah.
So how is this managed, Bart, in the real world? How is it managed?
well,
So,
we would,
I build an ADU,
Yep.
a year from now, I'm not gonna think I need to recertify or file paperwork with the town. Is there a form that needs to be filed?
yeah, so
is
we
it-
would have to mail things out in the
Yeah,
office.
Dover does it.
So
Okay.
it adds
Yeah,
administrative costs.
I just wanna know, no, I just wanna know
Yeah. Yep.
what the process is. So, what happens if you don't recertify?
So that's the question.
I don't think we have any ability to.
Right. I think it's more.
It's more just knowledge to get a grip on what it is. It's
Right. Right. Making sure that they use.
What happens if you don't register your car every year?
well,
Right, I mean,
no, but they're gonna pay. You're gonna pay taxes on the ADU. They're gonna.
You know, you,
They're gonna pay you. You're gonna pay taxes once the assessor knows about it, right? Whether you re-certify it or not.
Correct, but what's to prevent it from then just becoming a 2-unit apartment? Or, duplex
Well,
on
our
the lot?
regulations. I mean, our regulations are right.
Wouldn't it be the
I mean-
same as recertific, like, wouldn't the penalty be the same if it was not owner occupied and if it was not recertified?
Well, no, I'm
Like,
just saying.
What's
So,
the penalty if it's not owner occupied?
so I get an
it'll be a
ADU this
zoning
year,
violation.
and I don't certify
Yeah,
it.
it's a
What
zoning
happens?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
what's the?
I think it's a zoning violation
A zoning
because
vi-
it's
yeah.
so it'll be a notice of violation going out to the property owner if they don't recertify.
All right. So all right.
And so that's 30 days to respond.
Right, that way in that property
Okay.
folder,
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
right,
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
the recertification.
Yeah.
That is owner occupied at that point in time.
Correct. So they would have to attest that it is owner occupied with that form.
Yeah. I was just curious as to what happens if you don't do it. So you get a zoning violation.
Yeah. So we mail out, and if they don't respond, we have to.
And you can
Go through the
take
process.
whatever process. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Cease and desist.
I just want to know what the end
accessory
game
unit.
was here. If somebody, I mean, I can just see. I mean, I know I would be the type that would tend to
For sure.
not think about recertifying.
And that's why I initially didn't put the language in, just when I was drafting
Yeah.
this. It's like I can just see as one, it's added to the department would have to, enforce this. It's more work that we have to do, and I was thinking otherwise. Well, could we have it be recorded? It doesn't go in the deed. I'm not sure if that would work either. So
No,
I would do that.
yeah,
no,
But
Because if they get rid of it, then you gotta record it.
because you're basically
Right.
granting someone a license to have an ADU.
right. Yeah.
The town sends out mailings for car registration.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean,
any kind of, cars, boats, trailers.
yeah, no, it's just okay. So it's a process we got to.
this is a new process
through,
that the
okay.
town would have to go through.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm good
Oh,
with
no,
that.
no.
No, good
Sorry.
question.
It's a.
Would it make it easier if it was every 2 years or every 3 years or is one every year?
Should be an art to make it easier. It's every 2
Yeah, I don't know,
years. but,
sometimes
I
things
I
are
think
harder.
it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not rocket science as to having the database of all the
No.
ADUs and then having that, notification sent to anyone on record,
I
i.e.
agree.
on record here at the town hall.
I agree.
And there's no fee, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Not
so-
yet.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's just a,
yeah,
Well-
it's just a piece
Dover charges a fee.
for the filing of the paperwork.
I think, I mean,
Yeah,
we
they
want to
pay-
cover
they pay
costs
fee.
for the mailings
Yeah.
and whatnot, so,
Yeah, I think it's like
we can
$100
discuss that.
every year to register your ADU. I think
wouldn't
so.
wanna charge
It's on their form, and
Yeah.
I gave Bart the form, so I
and
just don't
again,
have
we
it.
don't want to make this as restrictive.
I think the
Right.
taxes
We
are.
wanna-
Yeah.
You want to allow people to
Well,
go through this, yeah.
and I just don't want to have paperwork filed that if you don't do it, okay, big deal.
Yeah.
If there's no teeth to it, but if it becomes a zoning violation, then it gives us the
Yeah.
avenue to enforce it. which
Yes,
is
in
fine,
chapter
which is-
32 would be a zoning violation.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay,
Mark.
sorry, let's see. And then, going to page 3, staying there, on standards, I tried to create new language. It's gonna go into, the page 4 as well, that reflected the, dimensions that the board discussed. So it, reduced the square footage, allowed square footage from 300 to 200. It's all ADUs. So it reads as follows: all ADUs shall be a size between 200 and 1,000 square feet as measured by gross floor area, except under the following circumstances. And the language, how it's written, is proposed now is, 1, provided there is no conflict under RSA 674:72, no ADU shall be of a size greater than 80% of the primary dwelling unit's total gross floor area, and 2, notwithstanding the above paragraph, the conversion of a pre-existing detached accessory structure built prior to date of enactment into a dadu having a gross floor area greater than 1,000 square feet is permitted, provided there is no increase in gross floor. There is no increase of gross floor Provided that no further increase in gross floor area occurs.
I think the issue with this is the way it reads. I think the additional language either needs to put in here or the sentence needs to be clarified. Because if I have a 1,500 square foot barn, this does not, which is not the barn itself, right? Has a gross floor area greater than 1,000 feet. So it's 1,500 square feet. This is telling me I can convert the whole thing.
Correct.
That was the intent.
But the intent of the ordinance is to limit it to 1,000 feet.
Right, but we want to honor those structures that exist.
So they could convert 1,000 square feet of it and keep the other 1,500 as not part of an ADU.
We could, yes.
And I think that the intent of the ordinance is to limit an ADU to 1,000 square feet.
For all new structures, yes, but for those existing structures out there, we want to provide some leeway or some flexibility. That was just the intent.
That's a valid
No.
point for discussion, absolutely.
Can you leave it bigger but limit the number of bedrooms? Because who cares if it's
Why
bigger, but
wouldn't you just limit it to 1,000 square feet?
maybe somebody wants a bigger living space and only 2 bedrooms?
But then you defeat the purpose of the ordinance, right?
You're not creating a new structure.
No, I understand, but why can't you limit the conversion of the structure as to what is being set aside for the ADU to 1,000 square feet? Because then it's consistent with all the other properties or anybody building a new one.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a big structure, you can simply come here.
Someone could have a,
and-
5,000 square foot barn. So using that same, you can have another 5,000, you could have a 5,000 square foot house on the property.
I mean,
Yeah, we can't limit the
It's
number of
already-
bedrooms, right? The state
Yeah,
law
no,
does,
2
oh, we can go to
under
2?
state law.
Okay.
I mean, you're just forcing someone to partition a building they might
Correct.
not want to. I mean, I understand your
They
point.
they may not want to because the bigger ADU, they can charge more rent. You could have 2 bedrooms and 2 dens. Now you have 4 bedrooms, 2 of which don't have closets.
So you're thinking there can be 2 bedrooms and an unlimited number of occupants if the building's big enough?
Correct, because it's not an occupancy limit.
Just to clarify, Bart, this is only for pre-existing buildings prior to this ordinance being created. In other words, I couldn't build a barn on my property and then 2 years later, now, come back and convert it.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yes.
You could
You
convert it,
could.
but you can only,
But you're capped at 1,000 square
1,000
feet.
square feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no way that someone could build a 5,000 square foot barn and come back. Okay.
Right.
So.
But if you had a 5,000 square foot barn, you could make it a 5,000 square foot ADU.
Not under this,
Not under this as it's written.
as it's written.
As it's
But it's
written.
already-
As it's
No,
written, you
no,
could.
as
As it's
an
written, you
existing
could.
barn,
That's
yeah.
my point.
Existing.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad, yeah,
It's,
that's true.
How many structures out there are there like this? I mean, are we,
I can get that data. There's probably not that many.
that's what I'm thinking.
I can go in the assessor's database.
So, but why would you say, okay, well, there's 3 in town, and give those 3 particular property owners, just by virtue of them having a pre-existing detached structure, something different than you're allowing everybody else in town?
I guess I don't know enough about the conversion process of a barn to an ADU to know, like, what are the limitations around that? Like, is it more work if I just do it for 1,000 square foot, or is it equal whether I do 1,000 or, you know what I'm saying? Is it burdensome to say, okay, you can only do 1,000 square feet, and that in and of itself makes it a much harder project? What I just don't want to have it be as a barrier to someone doing the conversion. And if it is only 3 properties, that to me, that's all, and I don't know enough to know if it would be, but I'm trying to be a little bit broader here with the 1 unit.
To that question, I would say, what if it's 1,100 square feet? You gotta leave 100 square feet out, like a little.
So you have an unfinished 10 by 10 room? Why is that a burden? You're gonna It's gonna be the same sheet rock, it's gonna be the same electrical.
Just be a cute, it's,
You'll have a door into an unfinished space.
so if you had a 1,100 square foot garage or something building on your property, you wanna convert to a detached ADU or whatever. So then, or 1,050 even, I mean, it can make it ridiculous.
Well, I'm
and
saying,
whatnot.
but the 1,000 square feet is our upper limit for all ADUs. So why make an exemption is my point.
Because the conversion of an existing structure is not as easy, I don't think.
Well, I think
I
it's
mean, if you're
easy,
gonna
I
build
think
it
it's
inside your
easier.
house, it's easy. But
Well,
if you
actually,
have a barn,
it's
you
kinda
have
no
a
different
barn.
than in your house.
Well, you'd use the excess space for living, as you currently
Or
do.
storage. You have an unfinished basement that's over 1,000 square feet. You're asking that same person to limit their unfinished basement. Say the unfinished basement is 1,100 square feet, right? So if someone wants to convert that to an ADU, you're saying to them, okay, well, you can only convert 1,000 square feet of the basement, and you're gonna leave 100 square feet unfinished. It's the same principle or argument.
Kind of, I mean, I would assume that in the basement there'd be mechanical
So
stuff.
it's
that
200 square feet, and you can only finish 1,000, right? And now you have a 200 square foot mechanical area.
Would it be more useful if I came back next meeting or at some point and give data on how many structures there are above 1,000 square feet?
Are you gonna be able to find that out?
Assessor database.
Reasonably?
I don't, I guess my point is that's not the point
Right.
of how many are in town that have it or won't have it. I
Right.
think my point is, why aren't you making it fair to all property owners in town?
Yeah.
It's the article will be consistent among all properties.
So you just strike two completely.
No, I would reword it, because what you do want to allow somebody to do the conversion, and if that building is more than 1,000 square feet, if you feel it just,
Well, this just says living area, all ADUs shall be of this size.
Right.
then in that,
So then
it's,
you could
okay,
just- you could
yep,
just
then you
strike
could just
number
strike
two.
it, and then it's a
Yes.
non-issue.
How does the board feel about that?
I like the 1,000 square foot limit. I don't think there's that many properties in town where that matters, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
to be
I would say
consistent with everything.
it's also, if you want bigger structure, you can go to the planning board and you can,
Zoning.
go through the process of building a bigger structure, right? I mean, we're not limiting you.
or-
It doesn't mean
Or
you can't do it.
finishing off more than 1,000 square feet.
Okay, whatever,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, we're
Yeah.
giving you an easy way to do 1,000. You want 1,000 quick and easy, here's a way to do it. If you want more than 1,000, there's another way to do it.
Yeah, they still have that option, I guess, yes.
The board comfortable with the variance process there?
Mikhail, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's fair, and in the future, like, it would be less confusing, like in 20 years, it would be like there's some that are larger, there's some that are smaller. What happened 20 years ago? Why? What was the process? I think that way it
Yeah.
would be equalized.
So you can go to zoning and get a variance to have a bigger ADU?
Sure.
Yeah,
More
it's in the
for
zoning
anything,
ordinance.
right?
What's your hardship?
Yeah. I was wondering what the
My
hardship would be.
barn's 1,200 square
Exactly.
feet,
Yeah,
I don't
that's right.
wanna partition it.
That's right.
Okay.
So,
No,
alright,
right.
so
Um,
2 is struck. If,
I don't
that's
know,
the
it
consensus.
is, well, I think that's the, you
That's-
guys sound like
I
you
can
wanna
live with
keep
that.
it.
Cleanest.
Okay, alright, okay,
I-
2 is struck.
Okay.
I agree with Mikhail's
Okay.
20-year argument. That's a good, that
Yeah, it'll be a record
makes
of
sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Two
Yes,
is
2,
gone,
line 163. Okay, moving forward, structure setback, so just a little background, I talked to the code enforcement, and he says there's no, in NFPA, structure setback limits, they go by firewall, and there's nothing in building code either for how close the structures are to each other. It's all on NFPA and it goes through
Okay.
the fire.
So is this even needed? If in order for them to pull a permit to do the ADU, they're gonna have to meet that regulation anyway?
Yes, so I guess it's superfluous,
Okay.
separate.
Well, it's redundant, it's not superfluous,
Yeah, redundant.
yeah.
Good point. Well, so cross that off.
Okay, great. Let's see, and then line 175. So this goes to our front setback question. I try to write something that reflected what the board was trying to accomplish. So it reads as follows: all ADUs shall adhere to applicable setback requirements pursuant to 3289 dimensional table, unless a legally non-conforming accessory structure is proposed to be converted into an ADU. No ADU shall be closer to the front property line than the primary dwelling unit, except under the following circumstances. 1. If the principal dwelling unit is set back at least 100 feet from the front property line, the proposed ADU shall be no closer than 80 feet from the front property line. 2. If a pre-existing accessory structure built prior to insert date of enactment is located closer to the front property line than the primary dwelling unit, the aforementioned accessory structure is permitted to be converted into an ADU. 3. A newly constructed ADU is permitted to be closer to the front property line than the primary dwelling unit in the instance the ADU is located within a new accessory multi-purpose building such as a garage, barn, carriage house.
The first one, where do you get the 80 feet? The 100 feet, the 80 feet, those are just best guesses?
Yeah, so basically it's not too close to the front property line.
Yeah.
It's close
Yeah.
enough to the primary dwelling unit, so it kind of creates that, I don't know, inclusion, it's part of the site.
Okay, but there's no,
That's just for an
Just-
ADU specifically,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and these are really going to apply to, single-family homes in the R1 zone,
Right.
Yeah.
where they
like
have a
rural areas.
40-foot setback, but some might be set
They
back
have a-
100 feet,
but they got a garage up front or something.
or to prohibit them just putting a little, a little cottage on the front.
Yeah.
Because then it's kind of separated back.
But it also honors those pre-existing
Right.
structures too,
Right.
so
Right.
try to,
And you can
Because
always
I
go
have-
to zoning for that, right?
what's that?
You can always go to zoning to get a variance, like if you don't have enough room
Correct.
Right,
to keep
Yeah.
the
Right,
the
you just want-
garage 80 feet from the front.
Mhm.
exactly.
It's 100 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
For
Yeah.
wetlands or whatever the reason, right? You might, on that, you might get a hardship. Should the first one again say subject to all other provisions herein?
Well, that's my question, would that be redundant?
Okay, I didn't know,
'Cause,
as long as it's clear that
Yeah.
regardless of whatever that prior existing
yeah, I can,
subject was, it can't still, is flagged that it can't be over 1,000 square feet.
right, so it's still, because there's nothing there exempting it,
Okay.
it's just saying that, say that existing structure, that can be converted into an ADU between 200 and 1,000 square feet.
Perfect.
Okay, and then building height, just trimmed it down, just to reflect that it has to meet the dimensional standards, not adding too many different standards. That comes in building design later in the ordinance, where it has to look like, comport with the house, the primary dwelling unit, so just trimming that down. And then moving to line on page 4, 206, for the two ADUs, I added a standard for a plot plan. So the board has something to look at and understands what the configuration on the site's going to be. And here's what I think I got a little creative. Basically, this is how it reads. Plot plan. Site plan proposed development shall be submitted for review pursuant to requirements under Section 3, Design Standards, Section 4, Plat Standards, Section 5, Administration of Appendix B Site Plans. So, say applicant comes in and wants some waivers. That can only be done through the Appendix B. Otherwise, it would need a variance if there's any waivers. So, allowing the plan board to waive plot plan standards without getting a variance. That's what I was trying to do here. So there's like a really slam dunk case if this were to be passed, that they don't need like a plot plan, or we're not, this makes sense. Then the board can do that without having the applicant going to the ZBA for a variance first.
Well, now may be the time for me to say this. I think I said it earlier.
Yeah.
I don't support 2 ADUs on a lot. I think one is more than enough.
Yeah.
I don't support 2. I mean, what would make every lot a triplex lot? You can build 3 units. I mean, I'm not aware of anybody that allows 2 ADUs on a lot.
Dover does,
Dover.
but
That
if
has to be
it's a
workforce.
workforce housing.
Right. I mean, I just think that's too much. We're going from none to 2, let's go to 1, and if in a few years 1 looks good and people are happy to go to 2, I'm fine with going to 2, but at this point, I just think there's too many unknowns to support going to 2.
Going from 1 to 2, right?
Correct.
Right.
Right now, we're going from 1 attached to 1 attached or detached, as opposed to jumping from 1 attached to, you know,
Yep, I was just saying.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Cause
yes. Yes.
right.
Are we restricted to having 1 attached?
No,
No, so attached you can have 4 or 5.
Oh, no, no,
no.
no, 1.
Oh, 1,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we
One
are
on the lot,
restricted.
one
One on the
ADU
lot,
per
yeah.
lot.
Right,
Right.
okay,
It could be attached or detached.
right.
that brings you back to line 118 as well.
It's gonna revisit a lot of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No.
So-
that's good.
And I know I mentioned this before, it's not, I mean, we just need to talk about it. If everybody else supports it, that's fine, I just
So we,
think it's too much.
Yeah. I know Jane doesn't support it. She emailed me again about that. Obviously, she made her position clear at the last meeting. I gave a lot of thought to, you had some good ideas at the last meeting, and then I was thinking, well, maybe that would work in the R1 zone, and then I think the unintended consequences was just the traffic counts. So I'm not changing my position on that from our last meeting. And I
I'm
concur
sorry, what was your position?
not having 2
Okay, I didn't-
ADUs on a lot.
Yeah, my position was similar. I wasn't, well, I think I'd like to go to 1 detached, see what happens, like what you're saying. I am concerned about impact, whether it's schools, roads, water, sewer, all of these things. I just feel like I don't wanna race to 2. I wanna walk to 1, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think 1 is necessary. 2, I think right now is a stretch. Let's see how 1 works, and then
Yep.
at a later date, we can always go to 2.
Or see how 1 works to allow people to do the detached, because that can.
Well, yes,
Right.
yes.
I think that was really the marching orders, I think, from the council, and the meetings that we've had with the council in the past, and what was turned down by prior councils, was to, so I think this is,
Yeah.
a big step, moving this forward, and hopefully to facilitate, more conversions or new construction to support the ADU and get more multi-generations on a lot.
And it makes the process much easier.
Right.
So just have a question. So if we talk about new accessory multi-purpose buildings, so let's say a garage, would that be more complicated in terms of regulation compared to ADU, or should be the same? Because you can then convert it to ADU.
It would be the same process, building
Be the same
permit.
process.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but,
it doesn't really matter which way you go.
It's on the flexibility.
yep.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't want to do an ADU because they don't want someone living under the same roof, as opposed to having the opportunity to convert an outbuilding, or build a new outbuilding, because it is a multi-generational thing on 1 lot that people want. So somebody gets a smaller house, 1,000 square feet. You can do a lot in 1,000 square feet
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, where I live, there's been an ADU in our neighborhood since the day they built the house, 30 years ago. Gotta be one of the first ones in town. And it's been fabulous. Room over the garage and everything, but it's 1. So, so I think I hear the general consensus is for 1.
Okay. Great.
Is that-
What-
I'm
what-
for 2, 1
sure.
attached, 1
Right.
detached.
Yeah, I just, the other
So
language I
they're not
added
the one
is that
I
1
was
had to
thinking
be
about it.
attached, yeah, to primary structure. So alright, if that's the case, I can go and amend it to get rid of it.
Yeah, so why don't we just continue on through and anything?
Just striking C1, C.
Yeah, see, actually no,
So it's ending at densities
density.
and at lot.
yep,
Oh, I was talking about 116.
Oh, yeah, that all goes.
It will all go.
Okay, so let's continue on to page
Yeah.
5, right? So that goes,
yeah, so basically, since that's all gone, this is where we left off.
open space.
Open space, so,
Yep, let's continue on.
yeah. So what this tries to do, open space, so it reads as, open space requirements shall be observed for all proposed new building, hosting ADUs, ADUs and DADUs. So basically, you know, if you're adding more impervious surface, you know, you gotta follow these requirements. And but if you're using, converting existing structures, you're not expanding the
Your
footprint.
grandfather.
Your grandfather,
As
you
far
don't
as
have to
the
follow
lot
this.
coverage.
Correct.
Yep.
So the idea was to allow for some space to be open, so it can be used for passive open space, recreation, and you know, social gathering space, and also for stormwater. So if you can't meet the open space requirements, then the next clause on line 236 mandates that you follow Part A of the stormwater regulations.
Okay.
So,
I like that. That gives you
Yeah.
help if you
right.
don't
Right.
meet that. Yep.
So Bart, if I go through the table,
Yep.
if I have a 9,999 square foot lot,
Mhm.
I need 3,500 square feet of, you know, open space. I'm gonna call it, pervious surface,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yes.
If I have 10,000, I only need 2,500. And if I have 50,000 square foot lot, over an acre, I only need 5,000.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't we just make it consistent that all lots require 35% impervious? So it's a minimum 35%
Well, if we, yeah.
pervious.
It's a good question. For those larger lots, you know, I'm not sure. I was trying to. So my rationale was that these 10,000 below 10,000 square foot lots, these are gonna be downtown.
Or
Most likely. You know,
Maple
in the urban,
Crest,
close to the urban area.
or any of the open space subdivisions.
Yeah.
I would argue, Bart, that the percentages you have should be reversed.
Reversed.
You know, 10,000 square foot, 10%. 50,000 square foot lot, adding an ADU, you're not going to get anywhere near. You know, 50,000 square foot lot is a single family house lot, basically, right?
Right.
And you're going to be at
You only need
10 or
5,000
15%
square feet
coverage.
not
and you're not
developed.
going to be anywhere near it.
So
So-
my argument was that, when my rationale was that these lots are already in areas where are highly impervious. So you want to conserve as much space as possible in these areas, these smaller lots. In the R1 zone, you're not going to find, I forget the average lot size, I wish that was working to have the maps up, but the average lot size is like 2 acres.
Yep.
So where we have stormwater problems is closer to the urban core. That's where you're going to find majority of your smaller lots. So, you know, preserving that open space is really important. So if they can't, then they have an out on the next clause for the stormwater, because what we're trying to do is control stormwater.
Right.
So,
So
so either, so that was the intent, because you know if you got to do stormwater, that gets more complicated. You know, it's a little more cost burdensome for someone. So that's why I presented the open space as the first requirement you need to meet. And if you can't do that, then there is an option at least.
Yeah, I like having an option.
I just think, where's the downside of saying that, you know, I'll take it one step further, that any development of a lot needs to require at least 35%, you know, pervious surface. And if you can't retain 35% of pervious surface at a minimum, then you go the stormwater route. And then and we could take this component, and when we talk about updating, you know, part of the other ordinances, then it's consistent through the town.
Right.
So where did the 35% come from?
That's a typical one.
Yeah.
I mean, towns
General.
at 30, 35,
Right.
40.
I just started at
Yeah.
it started
Durham's
at a number.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I did look at
Yeah.
different towns and for the rationale and kind of extrapolate from there. Well, I thought it would make sense for Newmarket.
I mean, I think Val's point is valid, that if, you know, if a 10,000 square foot needs 35, why don't you just say 35% across the board? And if you can't meet it, due to your addition or your change, you do the stormwater
Yeah.
appropriate for that.
And then we are definitely starting on that precedent where we really believe that pretty much all lots in town should be thinking about having this either, pervious minimum, right?
Right.
Or undeveloped area.
Right.
Or you do a stormwater management plan, if it's the rain garden or
Right.
whatever it may be.
Right, so,
So that's, code enforcement will deal with that?
When someone
They're
applies
gonna-
for
they're
their
gonna Pull a
ADU,
building
Yes.
permit, cause this is only for
Correct.
newly constructed, right?
correct.
Yeah.
So if someone goes to pull a building permit to put in a little, tiny little building, 200 square feet maybe, and they have to prove out the acreage, the square footage.
Right, so, some of these lots are gonna make sense, cause it's the definition of open space is pretty broad, it could be forest area, it could be,
why don't we
passive.
just say pervious?
I'm just thinking of
Right.
who's gonna calculate it and how they're gonna calculate it.
So,
Do they do it based on like the tax map and then?
yeah, so, if it's if the code enforcement officer is unable to determine based on what the law looks like, what the information is right, he could ask for a survey.
I don't think he would ever get to that point, because,
I hope not,
because
I
you
know
would
we're trying
take
to
the
make it
tax
relatively
card,
easy for
Yeah.
people.
but no, you'd see the tax card, and here's X square footage by the tax card, and then he's going to be able to,
Right.
and the tax card will have the foundation of the existing building,
I guess, yeah.
right?
Driveway.
I have,
Right, so
I
you-
have, so the driveway will be harder to calculate, I'm not sure if it would have the square footage on the tax card, but an alternative could be building coverage.
Building coverage, yeah.
That can be ascertained on the tax card map.
But then I don't think it addresses this whole issue of the pervious,
No, it doesn't.
No.
because you could have basically the rest of the lot as a parking lot.
True.
But I think it's easy enough to calculate, right? I mean, you draw out a sketch,
It
measure the
depends on how accurate you
dimensions.
wanna be.
Right.
Well, I think if the code enforcement officer, right, as he's looking at
Yeah,
the
like it's a close
application,
call.
right, isn't if they have a question, cause it's really that close, right, then wouldn't he have the ability to say, well, prove it out?
Yes.
I mean, I would think those instances would be
Yeah.
few and far between, but
Right.
they will certainly occur where it's awful close.
Right, so,
Most building applications actually require a sketch, not a survey. When
Right,
somebody
correct.
goes
Yeah, that's what
to
I'm
make
saying,
sure that
it's-
you're, meeting your setbacks. So if
Right.
he has a question, boy, do you really meet the 10-foot setback? They might require a survey.
correct.
Yeah, so I don't think it's out of the realm of what the building inspector is having to do now if anybody comes before them with an addition or a new building. He needs to certify that it's, meets the setbacks.
Right, one might be easier to calculate than another, is my point. That might,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about people getting sucked into a square footage thing.
You're right, because
More
they're
often than
pervious.
More
you know.
often than oh, there's a stone wall or a fence, or whoever
Right.
recognizes whatever, a building guy will just like, oh, there's a fence, measure
Well,
over.
there's also, I've
versus
seen
something.
we can be flexible in that, say, if it's a smaller, like, if it's a close call, we can measure off, go do a site visit, stake it off, do the math, and say, and then we know what your acreage is from the tax card, and, what we identified there as impervious surface, we could do that.
Who's we?
The town.
I mean, I find it hard to believe the code enforcement officer would do that. They would say it's on you to prove that you don't meet it,
And
I
if the
mean,
neighbor,
practically
if the
speaking,
neighbor
they've-
feels
Yeah.
like you've built,
They've got a ton of stuff to
True.
do. They're not
Yeah.
gonna. In a perfect world, I agree with
Yeah.
you, but I think we just should make it as simple as possible.
Okay, so would, so was that, 6, open space, change that to
35%.
35
Across the board,
across the board?
right?
Okay.
And let's not call it open space.
Pervious,
Pervious surface,
Mhm.
impervious.
impervious.
No,
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 pervious.
no.
pervious,
sorry,
minimum
that's
of,
right.
minimum 35% pervious,
Pervious.
cause then it will tie into stormwater.
Yeah, so if you have a lot that already doesn't meet this, you're going to zoning, right?
No, you can go to the stormwater
You
management
just do
plan.
the stormwater.
Okay.
Well, that brings up a good point.
Yeah.
I would argue you don't have to necessarily, in that if you have a lot that is 10% impervious, but you're going to take an area that's paved and put a building there, you don't
You
have to do
haven't
anything as
created
far as I'm
anything, yeah.
concerned.
Right.
So it needs to be an increase.
As long as you put it on the paved part, and
Right.
on the
Right.
grass part.
Right, no, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, understood.
So,
Maybe
so let me,
reword that as existing.
if there's
Right,
no,
yeah.
you know,
No increase.
no net increase in
Yeah.
impervious, then you shouldn't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, the other side of the coin is, well, don't we want to increase perviousness from a stormwater perspective?
Not because somebody's gonna do an ADU, I don't, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you have an area that's already impervious, you wanna put a building on it,
Okay.
I
So
think
no-
you should be able to.
No net increase.
Well, and that's how DES would
Right.
regulate increased building in the shoreline.
And our
So that's
regulations are pretty
consistent?
much the same
No,
way,
I
you know.
think that's fine.
So I think that can be reworded. So change the open space to pervious. Pervious requirements shall be observed for all proposed new buildings hosting ADUs. I'll reword it to
Yep.
incorporate that language.
And then I would, 7, I would tweak that to say, you know, in the event open space requirement cannot be met, that's not necessarily true. In the event there's an increase in impervious,
Yeah.
and this cannot be met,
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Yep. So
yeah,
if this
provided.
can't be met and there's no increase, then then stormwater.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Does the board?
And, well, no, that's a discussion for another day, that's fine.
So I guess I think A can be axed
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 9,
in 9.
that simplifies
Yeah.
things.
So how does people feel about 10?
10, I would say,
I don't think Rick's gonna give you a driveway permit anyway.
well, that's what I was gonna say, without, you can't add without, obtaining a driveway permit through
In the town,
DPW or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, or it could be the state too, if the
Yeah,
state's gonna give you
right.
another high driveway, why do we care?
Yeah, but I agree with your language, Mark, because I think it also, having the one curb cut makes it still like, it's accessory, it's not
Right.
like a whole
Right.
separate,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you're kinda circumventing subdivision of a lot.
But if I mean, I'll go back to the one that, I think I made the same argument last week, or last month, was that you've got a large lot out of town, and you've got 1,000 feet of road frontage, and your house is set way back, like we talked about, and you don't want them using the same driveway, or for whatever reason. So we're saying they can't do that.
Well, I'm suggesting you can, that you do it as long as you get a driveway permit through either DPW or the permitting
Okay.
agency, state DOT or whoever.
Okay.
I
so
agree,
you're saying-
I agree
So
with
you
you on that
agree with
point.
Jeff.
I agree with you.
You're saying get rid of it because it's not necessary, you just get a permit for it.
You can't increase the number of driveways unless you get the proper permits
Yeah.
for it, basically.
So that's a moot point in that.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah, right,
Right.
Right, so you would agree with Jeff.
I do.
Yeah, I still like the one driveway, because otherwise, you say you got this big lot, why would you subdivide? Well, you're not gonna subdivide because you wanna save on the taxes, because then you're not paying taxes on 2 lots.
Some,
You're paying on 1.
some people have a second entrance for a barn or something like that. So if you put a barn over there and then you wanna cordon off 1,000
wanna-
square feet of it for.
Depends on the road frontage,
Yeah.
how much road frontage you have, maybe.
No, because I don't think the road frontage should
No,
matter.
but-
I think every situation is
What's
unique.
really gonna matter is line of sight.
I don't know, I still think it's,
Okay. I mean,
if the DPW or the state's gonna give you a driveway permit,
then you get a driveway
so be
permit.
it. I mean, that's my opinion, I know Val doesn't agree with that.
That's okay, you guys support me on other ones, I'll support you.
We could ask around too, because there's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
more
cause
people here.
I actually agree with you, Val, I don't want a second driveway. I think that it is, it's just, if you really want 2 lots with 2 entrances, just subdivide your lot. I don't think that's what we're trying to do here.
Maybe you
That's a
can't
different
subdivide
goal,
your
is-
lot.
is
But the
give
subdivision's also a
people
different
who-
goal to create a
because
house that you're gonna sell instead of an ADU.
Those, the people that have this issue would be really large lot owners, right? So, like, if they wanna create 2 lots and have a
But
separate.
they wanna be large lot owners, so if I
They
take,
don't necessarily have to be.
no, if I take my parents' lot on Packers Falls Road, well, they got maybe 100 feet is their frontage. They could just put a second driveway in and come up and put the little ADU behind the house. Plenty of room there.
Right, but if you're trying to create an accessory dwelling unit for, like, we've been discussing, like, someone in your family or someone with a lower income or something like that, you're not gonna wanna subdivide and create a house that costs,
Right.
you know, a house
Right.
and land that you're
That's
gonna
what I'm
sell it
saying.
for $500,000. You're gonna try to add a second driveway to keep the ADU away from your house, maybe, where your
Or it's easier
mom
access.
can live or your
Right.
son can live or something like that. I guess is my,
Yeah, no, but I'm throwing it out there because I'm just thinking of the lot. I would put a second driveway on the left-hand side of their lot and just go right up past the house and to the little ADU behind the house. So
That would
now
be fabulous.
there's 100 feet.
and there's someone to park.
And have my niece living there, right?
And you've increased the
So
impervious
there's-
surface
Yeah.
unnecessarily in
Yeah.
my mind. Because the whole point of this is not to get people living as far away from you as possible because you really don't like them. It's
I just don't. What is the unintended consequence?
And Val's gonna use crushed stone driveway, it's not.
Yeah, right.
that's
I mean, you're
my,
going
I
for
don't
a
wanna
big
increase
lot.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would keep it at one driveway.
So the way you do this then is if you're gonna do an ADU out back, you go and put your driveway in first, then you apply for the ADU. You've already got your driveway.
Then you're gonna take the driveway out.
You've already got it. You can keep two, you just can't increase it.
I mean, I would think that on a small lot, if someone adds an ADU, if it, like your parents, like where are the people gonna park? You know, the driveway is like probably gonna be crammed if there's two people living in it, and then there's two cars already there.
But you
And
want.
if you don't add a driveway, it's gonna be difficult, or you gotta probably make
Yeah.
the parking bigger. And I know that there's extra pavement there to get
Right. But you
from
do
the
end
road
up creating a
parking.
duplex.
It's the same, I mean,
Well, do we,
No, but that would be the result of it would be the visual of a duplex. A separate driveway
yeah, I
for each
understand.
unit.
there's kind of a middle ground where we could say you can't increase it unless it's deemed necessary by the DPW director, or, you know, there could be other reasons why you'd want one. Public safety or something, site distance, whatever.
or literally.
I mean,
there's
you
no
could have
way.
houses,
Get a variance.
I mean, there's houses on 108 out here that you come out of their driveways, don't have very good sight distance. If you were doing it again, you wouldn't put the driveway there, you'd move the driveway. But if we say you can do an ADU, but you have to use that driveway, it may not be ideal. But if the DPW director says, I don't like that driveway, you know, I don't want to have an ADU, use that driveway, get a different driveway, I guess I don't have a problem with that.
As Val said,
Be
might
few and far between.
Might be a
but-
good variance opportunity.
Because then there's the hardship.
Can a hardship
But-
be the driveway is too small to fit additional cars parking in it, and I'm allowed an ADU by right?
Mm-hmm.
So why am I not allowed parking by right, or space, or?
Because the intent of the ordinance is that they don't look like two separate properties. It's accessory to the primary.
Well, let's see what you can find out about that. We could talk about this all night. Let's just
Yeah.
keep rolling along. We'll leave that as an open topic.
And number 10. So my task is to ask DPW to weigh in, how they would treat such a
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And, you know, DPW needs a fire chief too, public
Yeah,
safety, what's
exactly,
the,
public safety.
Cause by ours, current zoning, I don't know the answer to this, are you allowed more than one driveway? Can I have 3 driveways on my lot right now, as it is?
Curb cut, I think you want to stay away from having multiple driveways.
I'm just saying,
No,
I
but
don't,
can't
I
you-
don't know if it's
What is
disallowed.
what's the regulation is
Yeah,
what your question
do we
is.
have a regulation that limits the number of driveways I can have on my property?
not that I know of.
So
State
it's
has
kinda-
a,
it's a
state,
moot
One
point.
away,
state limits
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
State
Moot
limits
point
it.
then.
you got 152 or 108.
Unless
There's a
we
horseshoe driveway on my
specific-
road, that, so it's got an, you know, in and out.
So we're gonna say, if you don't build an ADU, you can have 3 curb cuts, or 5 or 10, but if you do build one, you can only have 1.
But if you're building 2, 3, or 4, it's not because you want higher residential
No, I know, I'm just,
no
it just
density on the
No,
lot.
it seems like you're getting
Because-
penalized for adding an ADU, which we're trying to encourage.
let's do some research, let's look that up. I will talk to, I'll
Yeah,
talk
Ken,
to
yeah.
Rick too,
Right,
try to
yeah.
get ahold of him. Number 11, honestly, I don't know why we have it in there, I don't.
I was just saying, encourage.
We have, and that's kinda, to me, that's stretching beyond the ADU. I would just prefer to just cross that out completely. Whether you do solar or not, I don't care, you shouldn't get an extra 100 square feet because you do solar.
Well, the idea is to incentivize that type of,
Understood,
use.
understood.
So, that's the intent, so I'm not sure how the board feels.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. I think we need to incentivize, so I'm in favor. Besides, the fact that these are perfect units, if you build one, to place it in a way that you could, heat and cool it and have all its power needs met by solar panels. So if we encourage people to build them in that way, that'll be better for our town, I think, so I'm in favor of it.
Does that work for attached and detached?
And they cross the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Alright, so-
I would support that too. I think we
I
should
would support
we
it
should
as well.
be pushing for climate change initiatives.
It's 10%.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
not-
mean, that's fine, I just
So
think it
you're
doesn't belong
at
in
an
this.
1,000 square feet, you're an 1,100 square foot.
See that we just
Right,
solved
but
your
you're still
burn
limited
problem.
to the 2 bedroom max, right?
Right. So, that brings up a different question that I think Val may remember. We had an issue years ago with a solar project, potential solar project. If you do solar on your roof, right, a residential roof,
Mhm.
if you do it on this, do you have to own the solar panels yourself?
No, you just
Nope.
have to have it.
You can lease them.
You can lease them?
Yep.
Okay.
Most are leased now.
Nope, it's just however the ownership is, as long as you have it on top of your roof, you get that 100 square feet bonus.
And, but is there a time frame for how long they have to?
Decommission, sure.
No,
yeah,
not
yeah.
that. No, not that.
Yeah, yeah.
I have, so, I'm thinking of how somebody like me would beat the system.
Sure.
So I have solar panels on my roof now, I'm gonna do an ADU, I take 3 of them, put them on my ADU, get 1,100 square feet instead of 1,000 square feet, take them off 2 years later. And maybe there's no way, maybe that's just, there's no way around it, and maybe I'm just
I mean, you could always.
looking
I
for
mean,
problems that don't exist.
You
I'm
could,
just,
you could stretch it and say upon your yearly renewal, you have to certify that you've maintained your solar to keep your
Well,
bonus square
yeah, I
footage.
mean, I'm just-
But if you build it.
you're gonna
you know,
keep it.
If
If you're
build
gonna,
it,
right.
you
If you're doing it
manufacture
legitimately, you're gonna keep
you're
it.
not gonna
Okay.
take.
Yeah,
But
this,
you're also not gonna take the 100 square feet off if you remove the panels.
no, right, that's my point. Yeah, I mean,
no,
that's
yeah,
fine,
So that's a.
that's fine. It just,
Yeah.
ignore that comment.
Okay. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's like a.
Now we know who to check.
That's right, that's right.
I would say that there should be even more incentive to do something like that, I don't know, like have some tax benefits, perhaps.
Yeah, that's not taxed to begin with.
I mean,
So
property
property
tax
tax.
benefits. that's
Yeah,
fine.
right.
Right, cause you're saying that the value of the property may increase with the addition of the ADU and then giving a break for that.
Oh, it will definitely increase, I would think.
Right, so
It
is that.
should,
That's what I-
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't do that.
What?
I mean, that's something the,
Yes, town
Yeah,
council.
no.
that's the
yeah.
town council.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a, that's a valid point.
It's a good idea.
I think they're already exempt on roof.
The value of the.
They are,
yeah,
they're
so-
exempt
yeah.
as far as the value goes.
But you're thinking of a further discount to the value of the
Yeah,
whole property.
yeah, we, unfortunately.
Okay, let's roll on.
Alright,
But
so,
just in that conversation,
yes.
the limitation to the 2 bedroom came out. So we wanna revisit that part,
Do you? Okay.
under limitation, well, because we did, we don't want 3 bedroom ADUs.
That's,
Where are you?
should we discuss that?
What
Sorry,
number?
you went back to the beginning?
Well, when we,
What line are you?
replace that section on 32-234 is where it had the
What line is it?
limitation.
32,
Yep, so right now-
So we
page
pulled over
5.
we pulled over the dimensions.
Correct, but we didn't have a limitation on bedrooms.
Correct. 68 on page 2.
Oh, page 2.
So the current language as it's currently written.
That didn't get pulled over.
No, and that was intentional.
Cause we want 3-bedroom ADUs.
I think my thought process is let the market decide. And especially now, there's only one ADU being proposed.
I would
Instead
hope
of two.
that people would look at it as the space their lot can hold, I would hope, right? You don't think so?
You-
So someone's gonna do a 3-bedroom ADU where they have
With a
like a tiny
1,000
little
square
tiny
With
little
1,100
driveway,
square foot.
an 1,100 square foot lot, and they're like, there's gonna be 6 more cars.
Most
in there."
apartment bedrooms are 10 by 10.
Maximum of one on
Actually,
cars
Yeah, so
Maximum of 1 on
per
cars.
ADU, yeah.
I can't imagine that you'd have. I mean, I guess.
I mean, there'd be few and far
could-
between. You could
yeah.
do it. There'd be few and far between, but yeah.
I mean, if somebody has multiple kids.
So you're okay with a 4-bedroom ADU?
I'm gonna have to think about it. I haven't really thought about the
That-
bedrooms. To
Well,
be honest, I just was thinking it out.
you could have
I
it,
was thinking it out.
Yeah.
The cars.
4-bedroom, 1,000 square feet.
How big
1,100
is a
technically.
bedroom? 10 by
10 by
12?
10 or 10 by 12, if you look at the
It's like
apartments.
100 square feet.
Right.
110, 100 to 120 square feet.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
could put 10 bedrooms, 1,000 square
We
feet.
still need kitchen, you know,
Bunk that
bathroom.
All right, so let's revisit that. Let's talk about that again. Everybody can think about that. That's a valid point by Val. So we had it limited to 1 or 2 bedrooms.
Yeah,
Now, the way we have it now, it's
unlimited,
unlimited.
yeah.
All right, let's move on. Bart, please.
Yes, what were we? We're on 10, 11,
We're on to page
12.
6.
Manufactured home, so I added it out, basically just, it's a single family lot with a manufactured home is permitted only to have to locate on the lot. That's how it's.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I spoke
Yeah.
with the building inspector
Yep.
about that.
Mhm.
That's all that's,
Yep,
that's all you can do from building code requirement.
yep, I took everything else out and just,
Now, just as a minor point here, if you have a manufactured home and you want to build an ADU, does the ADU have to be a manufactured home? Because we say that the ADU has to architecturally match the house.
right.
Yeah, but if you come down to aesthetics,
Right,
doesn't
so
have to do
that
with
would,
the style.
does
with-
that say the ADU has to be a manufactured
It
home
has to
too?
comport.
Okay,
So it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It has to
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It has
Okay.
to, aesthetically be
Right.
integrated into the lot. So it can't be totally, of a different design.
yeah.
But you can't put a storage trailer in your front yard and make it an ADU.
Well, what if it looks
Well,
like
what if your house
what
is a
if it looks
storage
like your
trailer?
house?
Well, yeah, I guess I could do
Right?
that.
Yeah.
That's why I started buying
No,
a bunch
but
of
the
storage
issue
trailers.
here is that, so that nobody is affecting the structural integrity of the manufactured house.
Correct.
Right.
That wasn't approved by the town to be built to begin with, cause it's approved by some other entity.
Correct.
Right, it's a federal code.
It's, HUD my understanding, regulates, manufactured homes and modular homes.
But you see a lot of manufactured homes that have regular stick-built garages. So
Yeah.
I would imagine
Yeah.
an
So you
ADU
could-
would be
okay.
similar for the most part.
Right.
Okay,
Parking, bottom of page 6, is that where we at?
yeah, we have building design. I mean, if you wanna go through that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't see any edits to that. I guess we haven't gone through it.
We haven't
so-
gone through that yet. Any questions on building design?
On on 4I3.
Yeah.
The fire escape exterior stairs, upper level should not be located on the side of the principal dwelling unit facing the street. Is the intent there that we don't wanna see fire escapes and exterior stairways from the street?
Right.
So maybe that could be reworded,
Okay.
'cause I didn't really get that.
Yeah, okay. If it's within.
And I
I'll
think that was
reword.
the same down on 2,
Yeah.
Roman numeral 2, 2, building
Mhm.
safety under the detached.
Yep.
And then on 1, on, again, Roman numeral 2, number 1, does this conflict with F2, 3, lot setbacks?
Versus attached.
Yeah, it's located on a position on the lot that presents a less dominant focus on the primary dwelling unit.
Right, so,
Do you think that will conflict if that is,
no, because it's gonna be of a smaller size too.
okay,
Yeah,
So what do you mean by less dominant focus?
so basically, the ADU cannot look in a way that is the primary building of the lot. You know, if I'm driving by my house or a lot with an ADU and a primary dwelling, and I can't look. The ADU should not be what comes to mind as that's the single family dwelling unit. It should be that's the ADU,
Right.
not the primary dwelling unit.
But that's a decision that's made by the code enforcement officer.
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, but they've gotta determine whether or not the proposal conflicts
Right.
Right.
And then if
with the,
and then the process if code enforcement denies the building permit because of that, then it goes to administrative.
Yeah.
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 Because
Yep.
less dominant focus is open for interpretation.
It's true. Yes. Like it's basically it has to be designed in a way that it's not the primary focus.
It's supposed to be clearly the ADU.
Clearly, it's the ADU. It's not the
Accessory unit.
primary. Yeah, not the
Yeah,
primary
okay,
dwelling
yep.
unit, yeah. That's the idea.
Yep.
Should I reword that? You know, take a stab at it again for next meeting.
I suppose it wouldn't hurt, because
Okay.
less dominant focus is just something that is like open for a lot of interpretation.
Okay.
And maybe there's no really better way to say it. But
shall be located in a position on the lot that is subordinate to the primary dwelling unit?
Yeah, I can reword
Yeah.
it based on our conversations.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
And it can be a little bit in front, but not quite.
Oh, no, it can be,
Yeah.
way
It
in
can't be
front.
way in front,
That's why I
If
just
it's a-
quoted
if
this
it's- if
other
it's a-
provision.
Yeah, in the garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm talking about a standalone one, not a.
Correct. Standalone can be, well, it depends on the situation.
Unless the house is way back.
Right.
See, that would be interesting, because then it might look like the only dwelling unit on the lot.
It was
Right.
the
If
garage.
the house was 1,000 feet from the road,
Right.
the ADU is only 80 feet from the road.
The only one I can think of
You
is
always
anyone
see-
been Wednesday Hill Road?
Yeah,
In Lee?
that little one.
That little one?
Yeah.
Right near
It's been there
Misty
forever.
Meadows?
Mm-hmm,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the roof, I think.
Yeah.
on the-
And
I
then
sold
look
it.
way back in the lot and yeah.
oh, it's a tiny little cottage,
Yeah.
and then the house is on the river on the backside.
Mhm.
But they wouldn't have enforcement over that though, right? My question is you're not, someone does have a house way back in the woods and then somebody wants to build the ADU closer to the road, they won't be stopped by this, cause it looks like the primary dwelling unit.
Yes, because if it's further than 100 feet back, that primary dwelling, it can only be 80 feet. The only instance that ADU could be closer if it's a multi-purpose building.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to say is you've got the houses
Yes.
off in the woods,
So,
you can't see it,
you're
but the
gonna-
ADU is out front,
Yeah.
near the road.
You're gonna think,
Yes.
you're gonna
Yeah.
think that
You
ADU
are.
is the primary dwelling,
Yeah.
cause you don't see another dwelling.
No, we're
don't
gonna
see
force
it.
you to build it so it looks like a guardhouse.
Well, I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure that doesn't stop it, cause it might
Yeah.
look like the primary dwelling.
Yeah.
No, it's just gonna look
Right.
like a cottage
Right.
on the street. Right.
I think in that point, if you don't see, for context, you're driving by and you don't see anything else, a reasonable person would say that's probably the single family dwelling unit.
Yeah, that property, people thought I was
Yeah.
crazy for what, I think it was 800 square feet, and
Mhm.
asking, it's waterfront, so a crazy number.
At the house.
Yeah, and I'm
But-
like, yeah, that's
So
not the house.
that's a good question.
So it's okay though, I just wanna make sure this doesn't stop people from doing that. Because it,
No, I don't think it does.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you have to take it contextually.
okay, as long as
Yeah.
it's.
But the other regulation could stop them from doing it. If the house is more than 100 feet, then the ADU can only be, say, 80 feet.
Yeah, but 80
Uh,
might be an open
Unless
field,
they
isn't it?
build a
No, yeah,
multi-
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like a-
unless
yeah,
they
yeah.
do, unless they do a carriage house.
Correct.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
a barn, carriage house, garage.
which is
Alright.
really anything,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know? So in reality, what would actually be 100 feet back, 80 feet back?
Just a, standalone. I mean, if you want
Somebody
to
would do a standalone.
standalone ADU,
A carriage house,
you could do that.
Yeah.
Closer.
but I can,
You do
right?
it closer.
Actually, it'd be 40 feet 'cause setbacks. It was depending on the
If
zone.
it's- yeah. So I guess getting back to this whole 80 feet thing.
Yeah.
But that's different because it's a multi-use building.
No,
Right.
no, it's within a new accessory multi-purpose building,
Multi-purpose.
such as a garage, barn, or carriage house.
Yeah.
So the carriage house has to be multi-use.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I guess it's more the
A big
style.
garage with a
Yeah, yeah.
thing above it.
Garage. Yes, basically garage.
Yeah, I'm thinking if someone builds a tiny house essentially up near the road,
Right.
this won't stop them from
Correct.
doing that.
That's
They can
correct.
still have the tiny house near the road and then their house
Correct.
half a
Yeah.
mile back through the woods.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
All right, Bart, onward. I think we're parking.
Parking. So we don't have to worry about the two situation. So basically, I set a maximum parking of 1 for an ADU. So basically, that means the property owner can decide to have a parking space.
So you have 2.
So you're requiring a maximum
Oh, maximum of 2.
two.
Excuse me.
Maximum of
Maximum of 2. Excuse
Yeah, I
me.
was gonna say, if it's
Yeah.
a 2-bedroom,
Maximum of 2.
Maximum of 2.
And
So
then,
that-
and that would also be regulated by lot coverage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whether they can have 2
yeah,
or 1.
cause even a 1-bedroom, I mean, in
Or
your
not.
case, for instance, the husband and wife both have a car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So the idea is not to have 2,
Not to have 4.
proliferate the parking.
Right,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
So if you have a driveway where you already have 2 cars parked, and we don't allow another driveway, so how do the other people who live in the ADU actually get to
It would have to come off the driveway, the existing curb cut driveway, so they would increase.
Yeah.
the width of it?
Impervious.
There's a lot of houses like in, say, Portsmouth, where the in-town houses, where all your parking is tandem, so you're always shifting cars.
Right.
You might have 3 units in one property with a tandem driveway.
Yeah,
And this is
And
the
everyone's
maximum, so
shifting.
this is their discretion. They don't have to
Right.
provide parking
Right.
for this. And then,
It's interesting, so we don't have to provide any parking.
that's how it's proposed, yeah. So the idea is, be
In
Right.
town.
in town, it's really, it might be really tight, maybe they can't. So the idea is just to have flexibility.
I mean, it's okay, I mean.
And not
someone's
to
gonna
allow
rent it or
too
not.
much, yeah.
Someone with 3 cars isn't gonna rent it, or maybe they will and then just park overnight in town lots or something.
Right.
But not in the winter.
Not in the winter though, yeah.
or maybe they're gonna charge their electric bikes off of the, solar cells on the roof, and they're
That's
just
right.
gonna
There
go
we go.
around on a
It's in
bicycle.
that extra 100 square feet, you can.
Yeah,
put a
that's
bike.
right, that's right.
There you go.
I'll throw that bike in the back of my truck on the way to work.
And then, on line 318, page 7, allow for tandem parking up to 2 spaces. I'm not sure how the board feels about that.
Well, we've got that on, Chapel Street, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Some of the
yeah.
We
parking.
have it in a lot of.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that. I just don't, honestly, Bart, I don't think we need to talk about the primary dwelling unit, right? Because all we're talking about is ADUs.
Yeah.
So tandem parking with maximum stacking limit of 2 spaces to accommodate an ADU.
Yeah.
Is permitted, right?
Yep.
What?
Why
they
would
do
we
it-
even talk about it?
Yeah, I guess we,
Yeah, just
Why don't we
cross
just
off.
delete it all?
Okay.
Let the property owner figure it out.
Oh, I'm
Right, because
even
I mean,
better.
they
Even
can't,
Yeah.
they guys still need 35%,
Yeah, yeah, that's
lot
fine.
coverage
Right.
That's fine.
of pervious.
and then this is if they want to be closer, to the property line. I'll just read it, just for the audience. Outdoor parking spaces accommodate ADU exclusively or in part are authorized to encroach onto the lot setbacks, provided that the location of the new parking spaces are a minimum 20 feet from an abutter's property's dwelling unit, or maintain the setback of pre-existing parking spaces that are closer than 20 feet to an abutter property's dwelling unit. Planning board may grant a special permit to reduce the minimum distance from special use permit, my math days, to reduce the minimum distance from an abutting property's dwelling unit to 10 feet for proposed new parking spaces accommodating an ADU full or in part, provided that the following standards met. Change that to 1. A proposed or existing landscape buffer or neighbor-friendly fencing shall screen adequately the parking spaces from the abutting property and shall be maintained in perpetuity by the property owner so long as the ADU exists. In the then new landscaping is proposed to meet this standard. Native vegetation shall be used exclusively. Modifications made to and improve landscape buffer or neighborhood-friendly fencing that reduce the efficacy of the screening capabilities, intentionally reduce non-native vegetation or reduce population of native vegetation from the buffer shall be required plan board approval. So basically, it's adding this buffer space, make sure it's a type of vegetation that makes sense for the town. If the applicant wants to be closer to the property line, to existing.
Can I propose something?
Go ahead, absolutely.
How about parking within a setback requires a special use permit from the planning board?
Sure.
Do you have any standards for that?
No.
Under special use permits, we
Yeah.
have standards
Yeah.
set.
Okay.
Cause then you can look,
Good.
I was gonna say, would it be better, I always like things like that personally to go to zoning instead of planning board, but, I understand if you'd rather keep it with planning board. Just because they have to meet criteria of hardship and takes the neighbor more into account than the planning board.
well, why does it?
Cause they have to meet the criteria for
Special use
variance.
permits, no, not for,
variance.
well, I'm saying, you don't go for variance, you go, right now, in order to do an ADU, you go to the zoning board to get a special use permit.
Right, but this is for this specific item.
Right, so I'm saying for parking, so I think one of the issues and came from the council is that under the current ordinance, to have an ADU, you go to the planning board, so you go to the zoning board to get a special use permit. Under a special use permit at either board, you're not having to prove the 5 criteria of a variance, right? It's just less, as you know. So, but why send somebody to the zoning board as opposed to the planning board? Because under a special use permit of the planning board, we can establish these criteria depending on the lot. Because our focus is more planning as opposed to circumventing zoning.
Well, my thought was that whenever I'm allowing people to do things closer to other people's houses, like park, or, I mean, that could be intrusive.
Right?
And you're meeting, like, why you have to do that.
So you want someone to get a variance to have parking in the setback,
Yes.
and then they have to provide hardship. But they can't put any conditions on it. The zoning board it's yes or no.
They can put conditions, I think.
They can put landscaping conditions?
No, nothing
No.
like that, no.
Yeah,
No, I wasn't thinking about that at all. I was
Yeah.
thinking all of the
cause
proximity
the
of
abutters would be
parking to the
notified,
abutter. Yeah,
right? Under a special use permit, the abutters get notified.
and then we just say, what do we base our decision on for allowing them to do it?
I think,
Adequacy of
Yeah,
coverage.
yeah. You know.
You can look at the lot configuration. That's what I was saying, maybe adding additional standards would help with that permitting process that I can come up with and propose.
cause then you can segment some of these things out of there.
Exactly.
I just don't think that the zoning board is taking the planning of the lot into effect. They're just taking basically hardship, is it the intent of the right? I mean, you know the 5 criteria. Whereas at the planning board level, we can really put conditions on that have more to do with good planning. And and obviously we're taking well, we've got it lined out now, what our special use permit is.
So kind of
Language
piggyback
that-
off Val's point that the way I look at zoning board is adjudicative, matters of law, and this is more of a planning process. So one of the purposes of this is taking the zoning board completely out of it, unless it's a variance. I think the planning board and site plan review allows for this too, in certain
Parking in the
Yes,
setbacks.
parking in setbacks.
Yeah, provided they meet certain regulations.
Yeah.
That's why I just thought it should be under the planning board, cause we have the same thing for site plan regs.
Right.
You can park in the setback if you meet certain conditions,
So,
right?
Typically, that's a different zone, right?
I think
Site
it's-
plan would be any zone,
I guess you're,
right?
yeah,
there could be special circumstances for each zone where it allows different standards.
Yeah, I don't wanna complicate it.
No,
Do we have any expectation as to how often we would see this issue come up?
I'm just wondering in
Downtown.
really downtown area.
Sure.
Just downtown?
Right.
Where people, there's probably already pre-existing parking within setbacks on most downtown.
Right, so those would be allowed to be used.
It'd be allowed to be
Yeah,
used already.
Exactly.
So I guess, yeah, that's one of those things.
I
I can
feel
argue
like
for.
it's-
I can
What
argue
happens
all
if
night
you-
and
like,
say,
if you
well,
have
I bought
some
this house because
space,
there was no parking
you have
next
some
to it. I bought
space.
that house because it was surrounded by parking, and now all of a sudden it's parking right next to it. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I know,
Right.
you can't have it all, though, I guess, and I mean, I'm not completely opposed to the planning board having it, I guess, but I'm not gonna fight it.
Well, I like the zoning board giving relief based upon the criteria, or administrative appeals, right? Whether it's build, code enforcement, or zoning. Where I think it's more under the purview of the planning board to go through the special use permit process. Cause I just think we're
Right.
looking at something differently. We're really looking at that development of that
Yeah,
lot.
no, yeah, I
Holistic view
Right.
of the lot where zoning board is good for one question.
Yeah,
I can see where it can be useful in this situation. I understand where you're coming from too.
Yeah, as long as we look at it from the I mean, I say we, but, you know, in 10 years, it's gonna be different people all around.
The
But
board.
the board, you know, looks at it from not just the perspective of the person doing the development.
Right, yeah,
Because
you're looking
that's
at the,
you're
Well, I think
looking
we're
at
charged
everything.
with
I think
doing
we're
that on
looking at the
everything.
neighborhood, we're looking at the abutters.
Right.
So I think maybe the way to move forward here is, come up with some criteria that the board would use, proposed criteria, during the special use permit process. And then we go from there.
Yeah,
I
And,
think that makes sense.
yeah, and just,
Like,
work
we
off
can't-
that.
Yeah.
And
If
the
there's
board,
not a better spot.
right, if maybe the zoning board does make sense in this situation. Maybe, if the right criteria is there, it's good, for the planning board to use, so. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to come up with
Yeah,
some
or they,
criteria.
right, or they go to the zoning board for a variance, cause they know they can't meet the criteria
Right.
of the special use permit.
Which,
That's true.
So
They
they have,
always
they
do.
have two, right?
that's
Yeah.
a two-pronged process.
They have
at
a
that
choice,
point.
where do they wanna go?
And then, line 6 number 6, line 336, page 7, just saying they have to, connect the water and sewer if available.
I think my only comment there, Brett, Bart, is at the end where it says of the premises. I think we wanna use the term lot,
Okay, yep,
for total occupancy of the lot, cause that's kinda how DES
sure.
looks at
That
stuff.
makes sense. Be consistent. And that's it.
There was one other thing that I had a question about, was conversion, down the road of these condominiums.
Can't be done.
Can't be
Be
done.
done,
Yep.
Can't be done.
right,
Yeah, that's one of the prohibitions.
I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, line 110, page 3.
under prohibitions, right?
Yep, under prohibitions, B3, conversion of ADU to primary dwelling, number 2, conversion of the ADU into
Cool,
a
sorry.
condominium.
I don't think we went over that 3 meetings ago, and I
No,
forgot.
that's fine.
Good to, oh, there's one thing I would like to circle back to is, short-term rentals. What's the number of days? The board
I
didn't,
had like 30 on one
we
of
had
these.
30, but there was a debate.
And somebody had 90, because then I
Yeah,
had
Tim
crossed
had
out
90.
something 90.
Yeah, I thought we were at 90 too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that on one of my drafts.
I didn't
I
know
thought
if that
I was
definitive.
Yeah. leaning towards 90.
Okay. Board
90
wants
sounds
90.
me.
Oh, I know why we can't put 90, the, visiting nurses, right?
Right.
Wasn't that the discussion?
Yeah, did you bring that up, Scott?
Or what, not
Visiting
visiting
nurses are
nurses, not
13.
visiting nurses,
Yeah, they're 13 weeks.
the circuit nurses? What do you
Yeah, they
call
usually
it?
go for 3
My
months.
daughter is one, and they're always 13 weeks.
Which is 90 days.
90 days.
Yeah.
90 days.
But then I think
91.
Tim was like,
No,
Gotta do
minimum.
91 days.
91.
Okay. Depends on the month, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
alright, so 90 days.
I think 90
Rico
days
has
is fair,
some days.
keeps a revolving door
Right.
No matter
down one neighborhood.
what month it's in.
Um,
Yeah, because again, too, these are residential neighborhoods.
Right.
We don't have any
We shouldn't
zoning
get some-
on short-term rentals right now.
Somebody might need to live in an ADU for one semester.
Right.
Right, 90 days?
I had one in my house. It was called a spare bedroom.
That's when one of the kids moved out? So this is gonna be 90.
9 days, so
It's
the
under
definition.
page 248.
Which one number?
That'll be
Line.
Page 2, line
Page
48.
2, yep. Line 48, 90 days.
Can we,
This is exciting, we're actually,
can
we're
we
at the
go,
end of it.
We're getting there, right?
can we go back to, is this the wetlands ordinance? Yeah, can we go back to page 2, line 52, and take the Concom, comments into consideration? Maybe. Jeff, you're on Concom, right? Do you wanna, maybe Jeff can
Just-
speak to this?
Yeah,
You
I
just
don't
had the
have-
letter.
I
You
know, I
just had
just.
Yeah.
Is it under here somewhere?
I have not seen this document until we got here, so I have not read through. I know we had a discussion at our last
I think this is
Okay.
reporting on your discussion.
Yeah, so I just have
recommend-
to read it quick.
Is this the wetlands protection?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, just the letter from the Conservation Commission specifically talked about wetland. I don't remember what it said,
Right.
Yeah, they're looking at it now,
okay.
so they can.
I mean, it just,
Just saw
it's
it.
basically, they don't want nothing to be not modified, under our present rules.
So
Yeah.
presently, if you have a house, you can add an addition into the wetland buffer. I think that's the existing ordinance.
Correct.
Because we're changing that to also include the accessory dwelling units.
Oh, I see, they're saying
Because
modify,
that is
they're
the
saying
existing ordinance, you can get a permit to encroach.
More than you already are.
Correct.
Right.
Or if you're not encroaching, if you have an existing house right on the edge of it, you can encroach into it with your addition.
If you get a variance or relief from the setback.
I don't think so under the, there's this grandfathered area, right?
But you have to be within.
This chapter. The construction of additions, extensions to single-family dwellings shall be permitted within wetland buffers, provided the dwelling lawfully existed prior to the delineation of the wetland area. This is, the part that's
Right.
not in color is the
I think-
current.
So the way I remember the discussion going was that we would like to see all of that removed.
Yeah, I'm
Like
sure.
the Conservation Commission does not want extensions of buildings moving into
Closer.
closer, further into wetlands
Right.
or.
Yeah, they're more concerned about prime wetlands than regular wetlands.
Right.
Well,
But they're probably
no.
concerned with all
Well,
wetlands.
they did call out prime wetland in the document.
It did. We discussed regular wetlands
Right.
Yeah.
at the meeting.
Yeah, both
So-
were
Yeah, Barb was
discussed,
there,
yeah.
So I would support the Concom's position that we don't, in my opinion, change this section of the ordinance. And then at some point when we're reviewing, the ordinance as it stands, that we would revisit that. Unless you wanna change it now, which is a different discussion. So that so no structures can expand.
Yeah, so what you're saying, Val, is you'd support leaving it the way it is now, making no
Leave
changes
it the way it
to
is now, cause when we're talking about ADUs,
Yeah, the way it is now
Or-
comports with the Conservation Commission letter.
Right,
no, it
No.
doesn't,
ADU.
no.
It doesn't, it says you can't build into an existing wetland unless it's an existing, structure.
Well, that's my
Yes.
point. So if you're an existing structure, you can encroach into the buffer.
Oh, I
Today.
see,
With
okay,
an
so that
addition.
part
Okay.
doesn't comport with the
Right.
Conservation Commission,
Correct.
right?
It seems
So I
like,
think the discussion is, like, we probably have consensus to not add ADUs into here.
right. So because you're
Right.
expanding
Okay.
these to someone's.
Right,
Yes.
So basically, you're forcing
Right.
an internal conversion ADU.
right.
Yes.
Yep. But then
That's the,
Or a detached ADU outside of We're just talking about a
yeah,
prime
yeah.
wetland
Yeah, yeah.
buffer, so,
Okay,
Cause this is
but,
only additions and
but this is any
extensions.
wetland right now,
right,
okay?
Right.
This, the current ordinance is any wetland.
Right.
If you have an existing structure, you can encroach in it. That's,
Right.
cause that's the ordinance.
Right, because, I mean, yeah, cause their actual, the heading of their letter is not just the prime wetland overlay, prime wetland, it's
Right.
just, I mean, that's the wetland.
right,
Yeah,
32-155 is not just the prime wetlands.
right,
Correct, it's all wetlands.
right.
Yeah,
So I think we have consensus that, yeah, let's not add ADUs to the current one.
Right.
Alright, now, do we wanna discuss, and I'm not sure we should discuss this as far as getting rid of it, cause that should have a whole nother public hearing
Right,
process.
it's not part, if it's not part of this, it's not part of the
Right.
ADU process, I agree.
So let's just,
Yep.
just take that out.
Right.
So we're not gonna do anything with that in
understood.
this,
And that's a discussion we need to set up for another
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, we can add this wetland.
and I believe that topic was pretty unanimous at the board, at the commission,
The prime wetland one.
or just the wetland overlay.
Yeah, okay, or the wetland one, okay, yeah, yeah.
Expanding existing stuff
yeah.
that's already
And then-
then
Yeah.
further
Yeah.
towards the wetland itself.
Yeah.
and so, and then on a future thing, sooner rather than later, we can do a public hearing to change that,
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
okay.
And then,
And then, did we wanna add 2 bedrooms? Do we wanna limit the number of bedrooms, or?
I think we should have a discussion now,
Well,
so we can
just
finalize it.
Wanna finish up here?
Let's finish
Yeah,
this,
Finish
this
up
one.
the Concons.
because there's the second notation that we discussed was the idea of allowing 2 ADUs to.
Yeah, but we already, didn't we already?
We already said
Yeah.
no, right,
Oh, so
yeah.
you don't want to hear that?
NA, no, no, really?
They were not all for it, but
Sure.
mostly the majority was for more than one.
And I think we talked about the whole idea of the 35%
Mhm.
minimum
Yes,
impervious.
yes.
And I think part of that, what they're trying to say is that the recertification would ensure that they didn't go and pave the remainder of their lot
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the interim.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
so that form would say, maybe say on it, I have not increased the
Yeah.
What is your,
impervious
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
on my
Yep.
property.
no changes to the approved
Yep.
plan.
So I don't know if that goes into this.
Add to the form.
Do you-
I think you add to the form that's administrative.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically ascertaining that it's following the ordinance, that form.
Yep.
No
Yeah,
change to the site.
yeah.
Alrighty,
Is the board willing to have that discussion on bedrooms, so we can basically have a finalized
I'm fine
Yeah.
with
product?
limiting it to 2 bedrooms. I'm not gonna draw a line in the sand, but I'm fine with 2 bedrooms, maximum of 2 bedrooms.
Is there a definition of a bedroom, just out of curiosity?
Closet and egress. I mean, there are
So
some
does that
bedrooms,
mean-
place-
there are
the
some,
place
I'm
was-
getting bedrooms that are like, 6 by 8.
room?
Yeah,
No,
There's a closet in my living room.
Yeah, if you have a
It's like
closet
5
in your living room, is that a bedroom?
generally used for
but
sleeping.
that's a bedroom.
but-
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, lean more towards like Bart's position, saying that let market to regulate it, rather than we regulating the internal space in the house. So,
Okay, that's fine. Scott, what do you think?
I'd be happy with 2, I'd be happy with the market regulation. I'm
So we
good.
got one, and one.
I'm opposed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You want 2?
No, I'm 2
Yes,
max.
2 max?
Yeah, I don't favor a regulation on that. I'm fine with letting the owner decide how many bedrooms they wanna have in there.
Okay,
I am too, because of the discussion we had before, that you could limit it to 2 bedrooms, but you could still have 20 people staying in there. So
Alright.
what's the,
so, I mean, just the
what's the
quick
difference?
math is there's 3 who wanna keep it open-ended, so 2 opposed and 1. No, he's either way, so,
Either way.
so I'm fine with that. That's the way we'll leave it. The market will bear the number of bedrooms. I'm fine with that. That's the way it is, that's the way it is.
And there's still a maximum of 1 parking space?
2 maximum.
Maximum
2.
2.
Maximum 2 parking
Yeah.
spaces.
So there's a control there.
Even if it was 1 bedroom, I think you want 2 parking spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's a maximum, not a minimum.
The maximum, right. Yeah, you're not gonna have somebody with 4 teenage kids in their own cars living in an ADU.
Yep.
Unless they're four kids taking the coast bus somewhere.
Right,
But
yeah,
it's
no,
going
exactly, in their
away
own
soon
cars,
anyway,
right,
so-
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
it's
Alright.
gonna create a
Alright.
boarding
Now,
house.
one thing related to that,
I
when we
just think
talked
there's a big
about the
unintended consequence from it.
sewer,
Mhm.
they're not, if they have to have their own septic
Well.
system, it depends on occupancy.
No, depends on number of bedrooms, number of bedrooms,
Yeah.
Not
Number of
occupancy.
bedrooms.
right.
Correct. So it won't, now it won't apply in town, because for anything on town water or sewer. Impact fees are not regulated by bedrooms.
I think ADUs are exempt.
I think they come to us to get,
They get exemptions,
Relief.
they've come to us to get relief.
yeah,
I have to
I,
double check that.
I think there
Yeah.
are, right, unless
We've
that
definitely had
changed.
them in front of us to come
Right.
to us, yeah,
But the impact fees are not calculated by bedrooms.
correct.
Right.
So you're gonna have,
You-
that's my,
yeah.
that's my whole premise as far as setting a maximum, is really about impacts.
And outside of town, the septic system is gonna be the controlling factor.
Right.
The state requirement for how big you need a septic system and whatnot, so,
What's the rule? Is there a rule on renting?
on, what
On
do we rent?
renting, like,
Your ADU?
or renting any piece of property, the number of occupants, right?
No.
I believe there is.
There's a family, there's a,
Yeah, and I believe it's set by the, like, I know that, like, when I rented from Cheney, they were like, you can't have more
Yeah.
than
Oh,
two
well,
There
two
is.
people in there,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah,
there, if
The
it's
student
serviced
housing.
by a septic system, you can't discriminate on familial status. Okay, so they can, so if you're on a septic system, you can discriminate by the number of occupants because of the loading on a septic system.
I think also
septic
a
system.
family, student housing or dormitory housing, it's not a permitted use.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Right, we define it, but it's not in our use table, so it's, so, I think it's 3 or more people. If it's more than 3
Unrelated.
people, unrelated people, then that's, not
That's-
permitted.
No, that's in Durham.
That's in here too,
In Newmarket?
yeah.
I don't think so.
Is there some
Well-
4-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, no, Bart, that's Durham. No more than 3 unrelated
Go to our definitions,
under student housing.
go to our, dormitory housing, or
Mhm.
student housing.
Wasn't it
Yeah, but
defined-
but that doesn't apply to a single family or an ADU
Right, but it can't be more unrelated people
on a lot,
in a dwelling.
But if you're saying it's under that definition, it's only gonna apply to that particular
Right, so.
housing style.
Right, so again, I think we need to read the definition, I don't know it verbatim.
What do you, and you're calling it,
I think it's called student housing, student comma housing.
I thought it was struck by courts.
Yeah, I don't
multiple
think-
times.
I've never
It's
seen that.
unconstitutional.
So you think it's under housing? Age
Housing.
restricted.
So
Student.
what
Yeah,
Gavin's
well, let me
looking
read
at-
this
oh,
for,
okay,
for
you
Bart.
found it,
So,
okay.
housing student means dormitory style housing which a structure's been divided in a number of separately rented bedrooms with a common bathroom. Other common rooms may include a kitchen, living. So you're gonna take this ADU and you're gonna rent out individual bedrooms.
Right,
And then is that gonna be called a dormitory style housing?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, like, you can.
But
limit
that's
the
not
number of bedrooms
allowed
to
in any
something
of our
like 100
zones.
people,
Correct.
Which is
No.
what Bob was saying to me earlier, so
Yes,
limiting the number
that's
of
what I was trying to
bedrooms
make, the point I was trying to make.
doesn't.
I mean, you could do 1,000-foot ADU and have a 800 square foot kitchen and a 800 square foot bedroom and put 12 bunk beds in the bedroom.
Right, so, that's my question, is it the number of bedrooms you're trying to limit, or the number of human beings?
Well,
Well, the
by
bed number,
by definition, bedrooms in any dwelling unit are typically restricting the number of occupants.
Right.
If you have a studio apartment, right, how many people are really gonna live there? Maybe a couple with a little baby, right? Then you're upgrading to a 1-bedroom. Right, then everybody really wants their own room, so you're upgrading to a 2-bedroom.
Depends.
yeah,
Well,
no, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I
I
agree,
know, I
agree,
understand, but,
agree.
you know, but I don't think you're gonna have a family of 4 living in a studio. Typically,
Typically, you wouldn't,
Right.
probably, in this area of the world. country.
Yes.
Well, right, I mean, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things that can happen. And if
But-
the
Well,
law is
no,
so
no,
limited-
you're right. I mean,
But
there's
what-
been many apartments with, what I know, there's been apartments where you'll have like 3 families living in the apartment, right? Then there are enough money, and then one of the families goes and gets another apartment.
Right, and we
There
can't
are
account
enough,
for
right?
everything that may
Yeah.
happen.
That's
There's
what I
always
was
going to be an
saying, so-
outlier. There's always going to be an outlier somewhere. You know.
But I think to Bart's point is you don't want these to be turning into student housing.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Which I don't think, yeah.
Right.
I have to cut out, but
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I did want to make one announcement. Tomorrow, there will be a community forum on the Community Power Coalition put on by the Environment and Energy Committee. They will have someone there. Henry Herndon, who's the sort of administrative person for the Community Power Coalition, not just for our town, but for other towns as well. So you can either watch it on Channel 13, I think, or watch it on live on Facebook. Is that how it works? Yeah, live on Facebook. And it'll just be informative, and it'll provide all kinds of information to you if you're interested in finding out how would this affect me if the town was to adopt this. Basically your default power instead of Eversource would then become the Community Power Coalition setup entity. So it doesn't mean you couldn't opt out of it, but you would have to opt out of it. So that's sort of how it's set up. So there's going to be more information about how that works.
And it's at 8 o'clock?
7 o'clock,
7 o'clock.
and it's
Is that just
in
for-
the auditorium downstairs.
But that will only apply to just setting up new service?
That's a good question to ask there tomorrow. I believe what would happen. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. So yeah.
And you said it was in the auditorium?
Yeah.
Yes, in the
7 p.m.
auditorium there'll be mostly it'll be a presentation and then a chance to ask questions.
Great.
So
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
you guys.
So before we wrap this up, we should continue this public hearing to the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so. Just one opportunity because it's going to be revised.
Do you know the date certain for?
Was that? So did we decide on 2? I don't know if we
Oh.
ended that because you wanted to.
No, we
We decided
decided on market rate. There were 3 of you in favor of
We
market.
decided on 2
No,
parking spaces.
Because the other thing I was going to say is we could wait till there's 2 members of the board missing that had pretty strong opinions on EDUs.
Yeah.
They may have something to
Yeah,
say about
I
yeah,
think
it.
we could
it's good.
We
revisit
can
it.
make a motion to change it.
So it would be the 13th,
That's right.
December 13th.
Yes.
So
Continue the public hearing.
entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to December 13th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Should we just continue the fee one too?
Fine
Or
with that.
what do you,
Yeah.
what's the
Basically.
pleasure?
Yeah.
There's nobody here to talk about it. I don't know if anybody will ever be here to talk about it, but
I think so.
I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion we need to have on this anyway, so I just assume continue it to the next one.
Okay.
And wrap them both up at the same time, I hope.
I think it's good. Good plan.
Everybody okay with that?
I will not be here on the 13th.
Okay,
You will be?
I will. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the next one. Hold on. All right, I'll read this. Pursuant to RSA 675:7, the planning board shall continue a public hearing to amend both the site plan and subdivision regulations of the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, intending to modify section 2.06 fees of appendix A, subdivision, and section 2.05 fees of appendix B, site plans, or take any other action relative thereto. I'll entertain a motion to continue that to December 13th.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So we heard from Jeff from the Concom. Anything else from the Concom, Jeff?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, Bart?
I did go to the ZBA to present these, and they were all in favor of the changes, or the general changes of having them removed from the process.
Yep.
They had some comments on that, nothing really substantial, there's just general comments on it.
Okay.
And they're really encouraged by what the planning board's doing, and liked what it was trying to achieve.
So Bart, one thing I'd like to do is just throw it out there. I would be extremely pleased if the planning board decided to not take jurisdiction over condominium conversions in the future. Condominium's just a type of ownership. I think we
Yeah.
waste a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
But can you
Technically
put
it's
together
sub-
something on that so
yeah.
we can at least talk about? I don't know what the
Yeah.
rest of the board feels like, but
That one
I'd like
took
to
you guys
start.
4 minutes.
Hmm?
That one took you guys 4 minutes.
Well, 'cause we're like, think they shouldn't be here.
No, I know, I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
Well, I know, it took us 4 minutes, but then they've gotta,
Yeah.
you know, what did it cost the applicant
Right.
to
Well, we
send
had the-
Alex and.
It was a subdivision.
We had the one
Yeah.
over here off of
But I think
Elm
we're
Street
one of the
that took
only,
us
a very
3
few
months.
communities, according to Bill, that does this.
Yeah, they letting us get to them.
For
Condos for subdivision.
So I'll look at what other communities do and see how they streamline it.
Most of them
Yeah.
just don't take jurisdiction. You just
Yeah.
can do
Mhm.
it by right.
So.
Cause
that's-
the legislature, well, the statute just gives us the right to.
Right.
A municipality, the right to.
Okay, then.
I'll say I am not a condo expert, so I know very
Well, I
little
know,
about
and why, and
condos,
then, so we're getting, I mean, the waste
I
of
don't do that.
paper, that
Yeah.
we're each getting the condo docs, I mean,
Right.
that makes no sense.
Well, remember we had the.
And why is our town attorney involved with the condo docs that are supposed to be approved, they have to be approved by the Attorney General's office?
Right.
And now we're taking jurisdiction as a town, saying, yeah, we agree with those docs?
Right.
That makes
Well,
no sense to
We
me.
remember we did the one over here, Elm Street, up behind Elm Street.
Yeah,
That was a 8-unit building, been there
Right.
for 100 years, and all of a sudden we're talking about parking, and they've been there forever. I just think it's not necessary. So, all right, can we get
Put
something
some
together? We can
language,
talk
yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Talk about it,
Yeah,
do a little
we can talk
presentation.
about it and see what the board feels.
and then the other things, if, from administrative, I don't know if you have time, or when,
Yeah.
but for the planning board to authorize the town planner to sign the plans. That would expedite that process.
Yeah, so,
Like, the town planner, whether it was Diane or Bart, they're reviewing the plans. Eric and I are coming in and signing them, like, that we're certifying everything on it is correct. We don't,
And then-
we don't spend, 10 hours.
And then they get
Go to
rejected at the registry,
Yeah,
and we gotta
and
come
then we
back
gotta
in
come
and sign them
Yeah.
again.
So that would be one thing, to
Yeah.
give and
Yeah.
you're in support of that, right, Bart? You don't?
I am,
you good?
absolutely.
The amount of paperwork we get, I don't think that we as the board members need the actual application. How many, the Sue making 8, 9 copies of that?
Yeah,
good point.
even if the applicant, have all those copies, it's a waste of paper.
It's a waste,
Yeah.
right? I think,
I think digital is great.
yeah,
If I wanna read it, I can read it on a digital
Yeah.
device.
right, as to, I'm not checking who all the abutters are, I mean.
No, right.
And the town planner is certifying whether this application that was submitted is substantially complete.
I read his report, his advice, and whether
Yeah.
it's substantially complete or not.
Right.
Unless something comes up at a meeting that makes me wonder, I just go along with his advice.
So I
Good point.
think if we can think, about, because, and then it gets into fees, right? Because then it's like, there's just a lot of paper.
So any applications, let's go forward, give no paper copies, just get them, we can get
Just
them
email.
electronically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking plans or anything,
No.
I'm saying
Yeah.
that whole application packet that has the abutters
Right.
and the
Right.
notice fees and that are calculated, who the property
I'm
owners
gonna
are.
redo the whole application too. It's too long.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Modernized.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like if there's a plan set for a big subdivision or something like that, they're still gonna provide.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we want
We'll
plan
have
sets.
like 11 by 17,
Yes.
full size
Right.
We'll have full
necessarily.
size.
Yeah.
So that's my question. Does the board want 11 by 17s or full size?
I would prefer to see full size,
Okay.
because the 11 by 17s, it's sometimes just too hard to read.
Okay.
But-
Well, this one.
I
person-
would weigh in on 11, 17's good to
Mhm.
get to have like in our packet. Don't need the whole application, but I'd like to see the plan. 11, yeah, right, because that's what we get now.
Yep.
And then if the applicant has probably 3 copies
Yep.
So that's
of
what
the
we do now.
full scale, right?
That's what
And
we
then
have
so
now,
they're
yeah.
available. I wouldn't
Oh,
change
okay,
that.
okay, that's fine then, that's fine.
I just want it for packets purposes.
Oh.
Do you want full set size or would you like 11 by 17?
I'm fine with 11 by
11 by
17.
17.
I can always have an
Yeah,
email.
and
them, I can
everybody
print
else,
them
if they're
out.
If I wanna
putting it
zoom
up
in,
there.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
And
yeah,
if it's
right.
online, you're right, we can look
As
at
long
it.
as I don't get accused of surfing. Because I do look at plans and stuff
Well,
on my phone all
what
the time.
I wanted to do, especially for this evening, for the
Yeah.
first 2 applications, have it on the screen right there.
Right.
And we just interactive.
Right.
So, Jeff won't be accused.
That's right. Well, I still might have.
Yeah.
I might be interested in something.
Right.
Huh.
But yeah, that was one thing I had a question about too. Is I went to look back a couple meetings ago
Mhm.
for something, so I went to the town website. So all those, like, if something happened at a previous meeting, no one in town really has access to what happened
Yep.
to all the submitted documents from two months ago.
Yeah, so our program right now
Yeah.
typically would have that, but there's something wrong
Back.
with our agenda. From June till present day, it's not logging, it's not keeping it for some reason.
Right.
So I'm working on that. But anyone out there, if they want to come into the office or I can email them.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It should
Yeah.
be in one spot for everyone to go look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I think I'm gonna do to avoid this situation, and I'll start this tomorrow, is create a new tab on the planning board page. It says planning board projects, currently reviewed, approved.
Perfect.
Has everything right there. We'll have the decision. We'll have the plans. We'll have the updates. I've seen other communities do it that way. I think that's a good way for Newmarket to move forward.
It's a really good way for people to find site plans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
'cause
agree.
they-
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
Google online, so if you do a Google search of the site plan, it usually brings you right to that page too, if you know the address,
Wow.
so.
Yeah, I was trying to alert someone in my office about an application that was here tonight, and I was like, I can show you what they brought last time, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
can't, and I went back
Oh.
to your email where you
Yeah.
could attach the PDF.
So if we go on the town website,
Right.
You can't,
you,
can't.
even though it says
Yeah.
agenda,
Yeah.
you go to that page, and there's like a whole bunch of stuff in the
Right.
top
It's
several
blank.
months is
Yeah.
blank.
Like, yeah.
oh, I did see that, cause I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
go onto those.
That's
tonight,
where it
yeah.
should be.
That's what,
Um,
and that's a
but
great
then-
system, I like that.
And then we
but-
do
Yeah.
all
It's-
one-offs too. Anyway,
Yeah.
I will update the website. Yep.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? Wait a minute, we continued that to, did we vote to continue that already?
It's the 13th.
13th?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Like, Sue, did we? I think so.
12-13.
The funding one, the fees?
Funding one, yes.
Yeah, okay,
John did it,
yep.
June 13th, and
Yep.
Jeff seconded,
Okay.
Okay, perfect. The other one I know we did.
and you were voting in that, so it was 5-0.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Great.
perfect. Perfect, okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all very much. See you all in a month. Be around Christmas time.